Okay. So welcome, Gapsters, to a new education hour. Today we have the members of the EBU Labs team to give us a very important information about token optimization. I'm going to present the members and then they'll get us started. So we have Roberto, who is a senior software engineer with more than 12 years of experience designing and building software solutions across multiple industries, including e-commerce, healthcare, hospitality, and financial services. Through his career, he has specialized in Python development, cloud technologies, and scalable system architecture. At Gap, Roberto has been actively involved in exploring and implementing AI-driven solutions, including cloud infrastructure, optimization, cost optimization, developer and productivity tools, and AI-powered engineering workflows. He's passionate about leveraging emerging technologies to solve complex problems and create practical business value. We also have Miguel. Miguel is a recently graduated systems engineer with a deep passion for artificial intelligence. He actually began his journey at Gap as an intern and quickly transitioned into a full-time role. Miguel specialized in building advanced AI solutions with practical hands-on experience designing systems that leverage retrieval augmented generation or RAG, graphs, and AI agents. He is driven by curiosity and passion in order to discover what he can achieve with AI. And another member of the team that is going to be joining us today is Juan. He's a principal software engineer approaching their 5-year mark at Gap and serves as the technical lead for EBU Labs alongside Emmanuel, who's also leading this team. And originally, Juan was an expert in backend and PHP and lateral development. So very important, guys. If you have any questions about what these guys are going to present us today, you can just pop them out in the chat or raise your hand. They're here to answer all your questions. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Juan.
Cami, before we start, sorry to interrupt, but could we change the transcription to be in English? Apparently, it's in Spanish right now, so it can get
Oh,
messy.
sorry.
No
Yeah,
worries.
yeah. Good catch. So go ahead, Juan.
All right. Welcome. It's a pleasure for EB Labs to be here sharing this critical, important information. We know this is a hot topic nowadays. So that's essentially the motivation and the main reason to get this conversation rolling over. So this is exactly the purpose of this talk. Here in EB Labs, we are pretty eager to share this critical information with you. We have been working the last year fully immersed in AI-driven development, using AI solutions, getting critical and important experiences that we are sharing with you all today. So we have been there. We have been navigating the usage and the stress that you feel when you have to optimize the token usage. So we are going to share all of these experiences, important themes, and actionable items that you can use over here. EBU Labs has been a team that has been working on AI during several months, basically the recent year. We haven't written a line of code manually for months. So that's essentially why we are here to share this important information to you. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to share the stage with Miguel and Roberto. They're going to be the ones sharing the information with you. I'm going to be on the chat. If you have any questions, if you have any kind of clarification that you need, I'm going to be there. Actually, I'm going to be sharing some information through the chat, but of course, pay special attention to Miguel and Roberto for it. So go ahead, Miguel.
Thank you, Cami and Juanda. If you can hear me, I hope so. Yeah. So thank you for the introduction. My name is Miguel, like Cami said, and today I'm going to be taking part of the first part of this presentation before Roberto, talking about some theoretical concepts that are very important for the usage of AI and for the part that Roberto is going to explain. The first one is the token, the most essential unit when interacting with AI. Every time you send or receive text, you pay in tokens. Every time that you interact with AI, you're using tokens, and tokens are directly translated into money and credits. So if you use a lot of tokens, you're going to use a lot of money and a lot of credits. That's why we run out of budget, in our month, on our subscriptions. We are always using tokens, and it is the most essential concept that you need to understand for this presentation. It is the main point of optimization. So please, I know it's a short concept, but if there are any questions regarding what is a token, please ask them right now, because I need this to be very, very clear before everything that we're going to explain. Like Wanda said, about 75 words are approximately 100 tokens. It is not a direct relation, but it's related to words. Okay, so I don't see any questions. Maybe somebody that wants to interrupt me. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
It might be helpful for some of the folks to, right now your tokens are in relation to text chunks. How does, if they understand maybe what Sergio posted in the AI channel regarding PDFs or images, how does that translate if I put an image in there?
Okay, so I don't think I got the question correctly, but every time that you send images, documents, and everything you send to the AI is going to become tokens. I don't know the direct relation with images and documents. I think that they have a different process, but it is going to take a lot of your token usage to use large documents or large images or images with high resolution. Those are going to be representing a large quantity of tokens, and it is directly related because the AI only consumes tokens. It is the main language that it uses. Philippe, go ahead.
Yeah, so I may expand a bit on the mathematical part of this, which is basically you are running a neural network, and the neural network, the only thing that does is it receives an input and then an output. So the way tokens work is that it is the unit that passes through that specific, like the chain of neurons through the network. So an image is usually not like chopped the way words are. It passes as an image. It's usually compressed or pre-processed in some way. But basically, the way each company has to have with multimodal models, it's basically rerouting whatever the input is into different types, and they have to do a conversion based on cost, basically. So processing one image once equals processing X amounts of word tokens, which is what we usually refer to. So think of it as more costly, but not necessarily the same logic behind each.
That is a great appreciation, Philippe. I didn't want to get messy with neural networks and those concepts, because the idea with this presentation is for it to be very basic and for all of the folks to understand. But Philippe is right. Neural networks have complex ways of analyzing information, and if you want, you can dig deep in that and communicate with EBU Labs to know more about that. And Sergio, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to speak a little bit to the processing of PDFs. I think something that needs to be considered is the fact that whenever you upload a PDF, there's usually two passes that go through the same document. And this is because if the document contains any images or any non-text information, which PDFs usually do, then that is one visual pass through the document that spends a lot of tokens, because in the end, images do get translated into cost somehow, and that's going to be equivalent to a high amount of tokens. And then it does a second pass through the text in case that it has readable, parsable text. So if you upload a PDF document, it goes through the document twice, once for the visual processing and then once for the textual processing. And that's going to make token costs go up to the sky. So it's much better to make sure that you're only uploading, if you're going to upload an image or if you're going to upload a document, only upload the part that it is necessary. And then if you are going to upload a text document, it is much better to just translate it first into Markdown if possible, or into any sort of text-based format, so that it is not going to make that dual processing.
Again, great information. For that, EBU Labs discovered a tool called Markdown. Roberto discovered it, and it is a tool that lets us parse PDFs to Markdown easily, but he's going to talk more about that if he wants to. I don't want to get messy with the information. Juan, adelante.
Yeah, I think the confusion here is that I understand that the technical concept is tokens, but when we want to get a relation between tokens with the providers, is when we start understanding that some providers use premium request, Copilot before June, now credits, and another one's other terms, you know? So I understand that the technical term is token, but the providers use different commercial things to say, okay, we are going to pay some amount for this kind of usage.
Great, Juan. Go ahead, Wanda.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there. Essentially, all of that what Juan mentioned, Juan Camilo mentioned, that essentially we're going to talk about that because there's a special and a specific distinction between tokens and credits, which are essentially the ones that translate to the actual cost that you may be paying there. But we don't want to focus completely on just money kind of thing, and save money kind of thing, not at all. Just want to make you and give you a sense of how to understand the usage, the tokens, then the credits. So no worries, we're going to move on and get rolling the slides so you can get that clearly. But good energy, good things, keep rolling that. Pop up your questions in the chat or lively here in the session, because that's exactly the idea of this special session today. And go ahead, proceed. Correct.
Sorry, I want to clarify something. Markdown is not allowed in the company because security concerns. Just keeping that in mind. If you want to convert a document to Markdown, you can open, as an example, Word and save it as a Markdown. That's the easiest way.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, I didn't recommend it for the company. I just mentioned it, but it's okay. It's a great clarification that maybe I lacked to mention. And regarding what Juan called, let's move on to the next presentation because we're going to run out of time. So now I'm going to talk about the context window. That is basically a very important term that represents the short-term memory of your AI. In your session, you're going to send a lot of information like skills, commands, prompts, and everything in a session is going to be stored inside the context window. All of the history of your messages is also going to be stored in the context window. So we really need to acknowledge it. The context window is the most valuable asset in your AI conversations, because if it fills up, and it will eventually be filled, you're going to start losing context and losing memory. So as a human being, when you retain a lot of information, you start forgetting things. The same thing is going to happen to the AI. It is going to start forgetting things, worsening your outputs, and increasing your billing and the amount of tokens that you're spending, because you're sending tokens and receiving a lot of tokens that are not necessarily related to the objective that you want. So it is very important. The main takeaway of this slide is that the context window is huge, and you need to have it in mind every time you talk with AI. Is there any questions about this? Can we move on? The context window is also very important. So I want the concept to be very clear. And like Juanda is saying in the chat, that is a great fact. 40% of more in the context window, and you need to start taking precautions with it. So I don't see any more questions, so let's move on with the next slide. And here, I already showed you the answer, but I want to make a question, and I want you to participate. Which do you think is more expensive, input tokens or output tokens? I want you to use the reactions in the meeting in order to tell me if you think that input tokens are more expensive or if output tokens are more expensive. Try to not read the slide. The slide tells you the answer, but please use thumbs down, thumbs up if you think that input tokens are more expensive, or thumbs down if you don't think that input tokens are more expensive and output tokens are more costly. Okay, I agree. I see the great majority giving us thumbs down. I see a thumbs up. I don't know what David Smith thinks, or the other one that gave us a thumbs up. But basically, like the image says, output tokens are indeed more expensive than input tokens because they require more computational effort to compute. Output tokens are going to represent all of the LLM is going to give you as an answer. So if you attack them and try to reduce them, you're going to be optimizing your token usage. But knowing that is essential. And input tokens, in the contrary, are just the things that you send to the LLM, the things that it receives, the prompts, skills, commands, everything that it reads, it is input token, and it is lightweight because it is just read processing. We have a comment. Okay, so he talked about some markdown capabilities, but the main takeaway of this slide is that output tokens cost more and take more time to process. That is one of the main points that we need to know for optimization. Okay, are there any questions about this? If not, we can move on to the structure. Juan Felipe, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah. This is related because there are plugins that try to compact the input and the answers that the model gives. So by that logic, does that mean that, for example, the Caveman plugin that forces Claude to tell really short sentences, it does make so it does make a difference with the cost that we have in the tokens right now, right? Because it compacts the output tokens a lot.
Of course, you're right. I'm not going to talk about it. Roberto is going to take care of that. But Juan Felipe, that is a great spoiler about what are we going to talk. Wanda, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that part exactly as Juan Felipe said. Essentially, we're going to show you some tools and tips to use. Kevin is going to be one of those. Just anticipating that. I just wanted to highlight this. Output tokens are more expensive, which means that probably is way more important to you to make sure that the answers and the process for the LLM to give you the response is going to be shorter, not necessarily the input. You can cut both of them, but essentially the big effort and the big chances to get a good result and reduce the tokens and eventually the pricing is going to optimize the output tokens.
That is a great appreciation. Roberto is going to talk more about that later. Let's move on to the next slide. Structure beats prose. This is going to sound more like an advice, but the theoretical concept is that AI always receives better information in structured ways. So if you use bullet points, if you just highlight keywords, the AI is going to really appreciate it in its thinking process. If you send a huge paragraph with a lot of fluff and a lot of text and a lot of words that are not necessary for your objective, the AI is going to think a lot, and structure formatting always will help AI to understand requests faster. So that is the main concept that I want you to think about in order to relate it with what Roberto is going to say later. Let's move on to the last slide. I don't know if there is a question. I heard raise up. Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you're going to provide an example about how to structure the prompt. I mean, about the previous slide.
Yes, of course. Remember, this first part of the presentation in my hands is just theoretical. It's just for us to land the ground in order to understand what Roberto is going to tell us, where the juicy details are going to be. Going again to the slides, we're going to talk about models and effort levels, sorry. We all know models. We know all the different models that the different providers get to us and the different capacities that they have. Some are cheaper, some are more expensive, but most of us don't understand really the concept of effort. Effort is basically the amount of thinking that the AI is going to do while thinking for your response. So the model is the brain of the operation, and the effort is the amount of thinking that it's going to do in order to provide you with an answer. So with this, you know that both are configurable, sorry. Models, you can choose whatever you want, and effort, you can choose whatever you want to. So you can mix match your model with your effort in order to increase your possibilities of getting a good answer in your chats. So with that said, I'm going to pass the presentation to Roberto. If there are no more questions about these concepts, it is very important for you to grasp them because Roberto is going to talk about them, but he's going to talk more technically about them. So if there are any questions before we continue, please ask them now. Okay, I don't think so. Okay, Nicolas, is there an easy way to measure how much effort one needs for a given prompt? That is a great question, and we're going to see that with Roberto, but in fact, you can just determine it by eye, like we say here in Colombia. Just the size of the feature could help you out to know which effort you want to use. Okay, so if there are no more questions, let's continue with Roberto. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay. Here we go. Well, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Roberto, and today we brought 5 pillars of practical token optimization. As you can see, we got content hygiene, content compression, model matching, constraint output, and measurement analytics. Before we go in further, as you know already, how the content windows works, what is a content input, what is a content output, why the content output is really expensive. That's a good content to understand before jumping to here. We're going to start with the first one, which is the content hygiene. Today, I brought a problem and a solution. Probably you had faced that situation before, or you had been there, where you are working in a chat, you are asking to the AI about, as an example, access rule for the company, and then you jump to another topic, which is infrastructure, or even company policies for vacation, but you are working in the same chat, in the same session, interacting with the AI. And you know, there is something called content. Every time the AI, you ask to the AI about a specific topic, about a question, the AI need to know about the chat, the previous chat, the content. You have to send all the history chat to the AI. They have to review all of that history in order to answer. But if you are working as a rule, you are sending information about document, infrastructure, a bulletin that is not related to what you are asking. You are sending information that is not required, which means you are using more token, or you're not optimizing the token in a good way. So the solution for this is just start a fresh topic every time you start a new task. Say and close finish the conversation. Basically, we know that most of the token waste comes from carrying unnecessary content between tasks. As a conversation grows, the model repeatedly processes information that may no longer be relevant. So for that reason, we have to focus it and keep it only the information that is relevant for the task. And this is the solution. We have to keep it, we have to be focusing on what the topic we are working. And start every time we identify that this is not a topic related, we have to start a new chat. Do you have any question for this? If you know, let me play something more. Okay, what the key takeaway of it? Basically, keeping only information that still affects to the current task. Well, it matters because the benefit: lower token usage, lower cost, faster response, and better accuracy response. Do you have any question about the content hygiene? Yep.
There is some recommendations about also, it's bad practice to switch between topics in a single session, but let's say that you are working on a feature, then it's fine to keep the feature going, but there is also the context limit, right? So at some point, like you need to stop and then just create a new session with the learnings from the previous one, or is it better to just keep going until you finish?
No, I'm gonna explain that. You can do. I got a slide for that, but I'm gonna explain a little bit about that. You can summarize onto your now. You can summarize everything, and then you can start a new session with the summary. The AI will understand what you're trying to do, because you're gonna have the key point, the goal, the next steps, because you're getting a project summarizing. But I'm gonna explain that later in the next one.
Yeah, I just want to highlight the fact that those questions are popping up. It's exactly the point here, because you already understanding context window limitations, token users, kind of thing. So now that you have that clear, you can start. We don't have probably all the answers and all the probably, let's say, strategies that you could use, but you are a genius and you can start solving that for your own. For example, the recommendation of Robert is right. Ask for a summarization of the entire conversation. You can even have some comments like compact in Cloud Code, or even there's an additional way to go. You can ask the current session to write it into a separate file, and then you can read the file in the new session. Kind of things can work, and we are pretty sure that all of you are going to start finding different and clever solutions that we can start sharing all right away. But the good part here is, once again, you are understanding and getting clear the concept, so you can start getting clever solutions about it. Go ahead, Robert.
Yep. Okay. Well, the key takeaway, as I mentioned, only keep the information needed for the task at hand. So don't miss topic in the same chat. If you're gonna start a new, if you're gonna work in different topic, start a new chat as the solution described, right? I'm gonna jump to a different one. Well, this is the content compression. So this is related to what we were talking before. And as you can see the image, we got a long, messy history of 50 or 100 messages and changes, right? And when working with the AI, but then we can turn those messages to a short and clear project summary. With the project summary, key decision, understand the question, and next steps. Let me explain this. Imagine this: you ask an AI to help to plan a birthday party. After many messages, it can be 200 messages interacting with the AI, you ask, what do you still need to do? So instead of reading the entire conversation, the AI receives a summary. If you don't do that, this compression, the AI will receive all the history, 100, 200 messages. So instead of sending all of this information, we send a party summary with the completed task, what it still needs, what is the next step, which can be a K. So now the AI immediately understand the current state because you're passing a complete summary. Key takeaway of this is the AI doesn't need to the entire conversation. It needs to the current state of the project or the task. Instead of sending the entire chat, send the summary, which is the goal, the key decision, the open task, the next step. What is the benefit of this? Well, fewer talking, faster response, lower cost, better answer. What you can do, go ahead.
No, finish the sentence and then I'm going to ask my question.
Oh, yes, sure. Okay, what you can do if you're working, this doesn't apply only to Cloud Code or Cursor. It applies to, it can be ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them. What you can do basically is just ask, summarize this conversation and keep all of the information needed for going forward. So that's gonna continue the conversation using that summary in an appropriate way. If you don't want to do that, there's a tool that is approved by Gap security team with this schema. You can install it, but this is for Team Copilot and Cloud Code. And this is gonna do automatically the same behavior, shorten long chat, create a quick summary every time you interact with the AI. Mio, you asked me?
Yes, which is the best approach? If I have a huge task, which is the best one, to compress or to ask the AI to give me a summary and then start a new chat?
Yeah, it depends on the content you have in that moment. If your content is around 50, that will be a better idea to compress. And if you are even more than that, you can ask the AI, okay, summarize this, take the goal, the key decision, the open task, the next set, the main goal, and you get basically like a compact, but summarize. And you can even take that and open a new session with that information.
And to get a really good summary, as you described, do you have any prompt for that?
Well, basically, it depends. Yeah. It depends on the task you are working on. If it's a feature, for example, you can ask, okay, summarize this chat history, following the goals, the key decision, open task, next step, issues, tests, all the more important to keep it forward the task in a new session, as an example.
Got it. Thanks.
Someone else want to ask something?
Robert, there is questions in the chat. They are related to what you're talking about, so, but you can address them. It'll be good.
Oh, hold on, give me a second.
I've just answered one of those questions right away, so feel free to go. Right, go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna continue. So this is clear, right? Basically, turn long conversation into short and clear summary to optimize the token usage. We don't have to send all the long history, right? Because the conversation may become, heavy and in context. And then we got the model matching. This was something that Miguel was talking before. Well, not every task required the most powerful model, right? Using large model unnecessary increases the cost. As an example for cloud code, if we were working cloud, and we just want to source information, and we use output with high effort, well, we're gonna run out of the budget, and that's not something what we want. So we have to be sure what we're working and choose the right model and the right situation. Something that is not good is a switching model and middle accession. You can introduce inconsistencies and require the content to be reestablished. It's not a good practice. The best practice is select the appropriate model at the beginning. Keep it the same model through the task. Start a new session if a different model is required. Key takeaway of this: match the model to the task and stay consistent through the workflow. What it matters, what the benefit of all of this: lower cost, more consistent result, better workflow stability, less content rebuilding. Do you have any question about this? Okay. About that, hold on. Okay, model matching, for matching, not sure to get something. Okay, yeah. If you see the table right here, even in the documentation for cloud or Copilot, we got description of the model and what is the best practices to use the model for. For small model, we had to use for sorting information. If you are using checking code, we can use Medium. For example, Cloud Code has Sonnet. For just checking working code, we can use Sonnet. And if we using working in a complicated task that required a heavy work or thinking, we can use outputs as an example, which means a large model for solving hard problems and defining architect as well, or systems. And we can use Sonnet as an example, which is Medium, but we can change it at for that's going to use to load, high, and medium as well. So we can use a small one, but with high effort depending on the task. Someone wants to add something?
Yeah, just adding a little bit more about that. Even switching effort level mid-session is going to probably be equivalent to switching the model. So that is not advisable. You should probably start preferably a new session, changing the thinking or the force level preferably. Not try to don't do it in the mid-session because it's going to probably recreate some catching, probably getting a little bit technical here, but it's try to think about that, like switching the model is not a good idea here. Preferably you create a new session, try to hand off the context using a file or kind of things. It's gonna work perfectly for you. So try to avoid that essentially.
Okay. So keep it.
Sorry, I wanted to add in there. That was a really good question. I was wondering, yeah, it is true. When you change the model, the context change. So that's one of the main things that Robert was mentioning. But the thing is the effort, you're keeping the model, so the model doesn't have to recharge the context. I wasn't sure really. I just asked Claude, and it says that you can change the level of effort, and that's not changing the context. It doesn't have to reload the context. So we we can use it depending of what level of output we want to there, the quality of the output.
Yeah, basically keep in mind that if we talk about changing model in middle of the session, that means we're gonna have to recreate all the content again, which means spending token, which is not best practices. So I'm gonna jump to the next slide. If you have any question before going.
Yeah. So in that sense, the best approach is to split the development process in different stages to use a different context for each one and a specific model for each part of the development.
Yes, actually, there's a frameworks like a sped drive development, a sped kit from GitHub. If you have a working development task, and you can specify what model use in different stage of the task. And what was the question? So you can there's different tools that you can use. As I mentioned before, sped kit, you can specify what model used for planning, what model used for creating the task, and for researching. So that's going to help you to optimize the token.
Thanks.
Or even if you are working for you have a skill, agent as an example. You want to run an agent, you can specify what model to use. Got AI Dev does that.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, because yeah, I had that, and I know that Subagent has its own context window. So I was wondering if that's a good way to do it. Like you have your main agent using the file model that you are using, and then you specify in a subagent, I don't know, use Cloud Opus, and that specific agent handles the the planning part of the process. Maybe that's a good.
Yeah, there's two ways to do it. If you redefine agent, you can have and the header of the agent on top, you can define the model to use, or even you can specify to the cloud code, okay, use this agent, but use this model for this agent. It's gonna run it.
And that works also with the skills. I mean, I can tell the agent use this skill using this specific model.
The skill is use the harness in that way and use the current model that you're running. So
okay,
it's not the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I can jump to the next one. And this is something that was mentioned when Miguel was talking about the token and the input output, which is the constraint output. There's a problem with here that many response becomes expensive because the model generate more text than necessary. Most users focuses on optimizing prompt, but forget about the optimization output. We focus more of the time on what to ask instead of the response of the AI. So as an example here, we are asking, write a detailed analysis, and we're gonna have a lot of information as a response. But if you see, we got architect prompt, which we are asking return bullet points only. So what this matter? Keep in mind about the pricing of the tokens, the input and the output. Which one is more expensive? Input or output? Do you remember that?
Output.
Exactly. That is why we have to be very careful when we're working with the AI and what we ask. So instead of reading a huge response, we can just focus it and say, okay, just give me the final recommendation, right? So you can ask like answer in 5 bullet point, or limit the response to 200 words, return JSON only, or provide, as I mentioned, a final and summarized response. You had to use for ArchDiff, you had to use a bullet list, table, job, checklist as a this word as a structured format. What is the key takeaway of this? Well, the cheapest token is the one that never generated. What's the benefit of this? Well, lower token usage, easier automation, more consistent responses, less unnecessary content. Do you have any question for this?
Yeah. Does the file output matter? Because if you're using a regular text file versus Markdown, depending on, because of Markdown, it has a special character, so it's adding extra tokens technically. So does it make a difference? Because if you tell it to write bullet lists, you are telling to add extra characters to be able to format the response, and it's also adding like enough lines. I don't know if that has been tested or if there is any difference, because I know that the tools are also trained to be able to work better with Markdown, but there is still like extra characters being added whenever you tell them to use a specific format.
Well, in that case, the idea is to reduce, as an example, imagine that you ask about a summary of the project, and you are getting 500 characters, but instead of that, you want just the key points of the summary, and you ask, okay, give me a bullet point response and 5 bullet point response. So you are reducing the amount of output tokens. That is the idea of bullet points. I don't know if your question is about the character, the point, if that's costing.
Yeah,
So
if you get like 2 similar responses, like is it more efficient to us for it to be text, regular text, instead of Markdown or instead of YAML, for example, because you don't need like dashes on special characters for the response.
I think that probably Philip is going to add some interesting insights there. So maybe we can give the word for him.
Yeah, thank you. My perspective with this is that that may be concerning yourself too much on a very little cost impact, because think about it, that even if you have like an extensive Markdown that's like 50 tokens with bullets or header symbols or whatnot, compare that with one single generation of something you didn't want because it was not like fully consumed as you intended for by an LLM. So the potential savings are there. I just believe those are minute in comparison with the benefit of structuring, the benefit of the structure that you give it through the Markdown. But I think if you have extensive experience, you probably will be able to structure things just as fine on plain text without like those additional symbols. But the effort to benefit, I see there it's not worth the effort.
Okay. Okay, go.
I do have a question about the thinking or the reasoning and how it influences token output, token consumption, because maybe this is something we don't see always when we are running cloud code, and it's that behind the scenes it's reasoning, and I'm assuming that reasoning also generates output tokens. Is there a way to control that as well? Because maybe we are too focused on the output generated by the agent, but we also have to bear in mind the reasoning tokens that are also output tokens, even if you don't see those.
Yeah, I think you mean about the effort that's gonna do us perform in a task, and we can change the effort in order to reduce the token usage to low or medium instead of high.
Okay, so by reducing the effort, you reduce the level of output tokens generated in the reasoning phase, right?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Basically, if you're not wrong, Juan and Miguel can validate this, but this is the way that we have been doing in order to avoid allowing the AI to think a lot about a specific task. We changed the perform that had to do it, changing to a slow or medium effort.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, and the next one is a mentioned everything. We can apply this for all. It can be Cloud Code, ChatGPT, Gemini, right? And what's the problem with this? Usually, you cannot optimize where you don't measure. Without visibility, token optimization becomes guesswork. So, what's the metric that we should track? As you know, the input tokens, the output token, we have to be care about those, and also about the cost per request, the cost per workflow, the average cost content size. You can do this. You can do this using, as an example, cloud. You can go to the settings and go to usage. You're gonna see what is the metric you have, and what is the budget you have so far. What you have to use it, and there is a different tools and command you can use in for Copilot and Cloud Code to do this. Let me bring a simple analogy. Think of it, or you build electricity bill. So if you don't check that, you cannot reduce cost. So you have to measure usage, cost, and consumption about this. So you cannot measure, but you cannot measure if you can optimize. So the benefit of this is identifying expensive workflow, find optimization opportunity, and reduce operational costs. So keep in mind that every time, measure everything. We're gonna go to the next one. And here we got the architecture optimization. We talk about everything with the measurement, the constraint output, the multimate matching, the compression, the hygiene. So it seems simple, but it's powerful. We can optimize the token by implementing this. What is the biggest lesson out here? Okay, most token waste come from unnecessary context. Summarize long conversation history. Large models are not always the better. Constraint output save money immediately in tokens. Measurement is required for optimization. And the next one is send less content but better content. The final message is, well, keep your content clear, summarize aggressively, choose the right model, constraint output, mention everything. A small improvement across multiple areas create massive savings at scale. Token optimization is not a single technique. It's a collection of habits that improve cost, speed, accuracy, and scalability. Do you have any question? We got time for question. If you have any question before going.
Yeah, we have one, Camilo. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it's just a comment about the context. I think another important thing to take into account when we want to optimize context is something that I call the invisible context. So sometimes we think that the context is something that we send to the model. It's just the current message, right? But the attachment and maybe the session history. However, what many people don't realize is that there is a lot of invisible context being sent as well. For example, using Visual Code with GitHub Copilot, all the files that we have open in tabs, all the markdown files in the GitHub folder, and all the tools that we have selected are being included. It's amazing. For example, if we have at 4 MCP servers, the description and of all the tools can also be sent to the model, even when they are not needed. And this is very easy to test it. Just send a message, hello, no more, just one word. And you're going to see that you consume much more tokens than you think. So this is really important. I think the conclusion is that we need to pay close attention to this invisible context if we want to optimize tokens usage and improve the quality of the models.
Okay, thank you for that. You're right. So as I said before, you have to keep your workspace clear. Only use what is at hand for the task. So don't activate an NCP as an example of files that are not required for the specific task.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. I just wanted to include something on the thing that Juan Camilo said. It is very, very good information because also your skills, all of the plugins that you have installed in your Cloud Code, for example, are going to also be included in your context. So Cloud Code is already able to tell you when you are bypassing the threshold of the amount of skills that you are getting like less results because of these skills and the amount of load that they represent inside of the context. So that is a great advice. You should be really careful with that invisible context that AI can send. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey gang, I just wanted to share some cool things that I've discovered that might be helpful on top of all of this information. Knowing your current burn percentage is helpful, but knowing that each request is burning a ton of tokens or not can save your tokens. So I've got this tail thing set up that has a color-coded how expensive was that request. And this thing catches, if there's a problem, it will catch it and save me from myself so I can go change the model. I can change the thinking. If something is overly heavy, I can catch it in one request. And the difference between catching it in one request in 10 could be $5, right? Like it's not insignificant. The other pro tip that I have is if there is an opportunity to use synthetic scripting to manage your output, use it. For example, if you're using some sort of integration to manage a Jira wall or GitLab or something, the response from that thing is a JSON of the entire wall, right? And you're processing all of that stuff. It's expensive. Turn it into a script that can go synthetically do the manipulation for you and output to a file. And the file can be a very slim markdown file. So things like that are also really good opportunities to save tokens where you're getting the same output, right? But it's something you want to be able to use over and over again that doesn't burn up a ton of tokens. But yeah, great presentation. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Someone else has a question or comment? Is welcome.
Yeah, we have one better. Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Because following the points that we're talking about now, because what I've seen happen is that there are new harnesses that let you dynamically change like the MCP servers or expose skills for the tool itself to be able to decide when to put them into context. The thing is that Cloud also adds way too much information by default. That's why there are other harnesses like Pi or OmyPy or OpenCode that let you customize it because they have like lifecycle hooks. So you can change dynamically whatever you are using, but I think we are like trying to go all in Cloud. So I don't know if there is also some consideration if there are better harnesses if we truly want to optimize like context usage depending on the cost. Or I don't know if it's also allowed because at the very least with Pi, you are allowed to use your Copilot subscription. Not Anthropic subscription because they ban third-party harnesses. So we are out on that front. But I don't know if any other tools were evaluated for this too.
Yeah, probably not yet. We didn't move too away from the, let's say, regular harnesses like Cloud CLI, Copilot integrated in Visual Studio. Still, the good news is that even with those, let's say, default harnesses, you can still, as you mentioned, configure if you want to include any kind of skills MCP. So you have control of what is going into the context window and on every round that you have during the session. But still, we could get the to-do task here to take a look if there is some other options and harnesses or approaches that we can use beyond, let's say, the default tools that we have here. All right, guys, I think that we are closing. Thank you so much. We know this is a lot of information, a lot of things to take into account. We are discussing. The main idea here is not exactly that you have an exact answer and solution for everything, but you have the basis to start growing, getting learning, getting the right questions to ask. Feel free to ask any of us. EBU Labs, Get Close to Technology, any of us can help you or at least guide you in the process of getting answers into your teams, ask your deliveries, ask your project leads or your technical leads how to handle some things. Raise your hands and we can start together building the knowledge transfer and the processes to get token usage better and optimize that as an entire company. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, guys. And remember, I just sent you a feedback form in the chat. If you could please fill that out to tell us what you thought about this session. It helps us a lot to keep improving. And remember that we are in the AI assessment again. So just like another announcement, make sure to fill that out in the corresponding dates.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
You guys, bye-bye.